Hello guys, welcome back. So today we are going to play with some new IOD. And I just have to say that this release is by far my favorite one so far. So starting with Persephone, I'm going to go ahead and add some baking powder to prep my mold. And I am going to go ahead and use clay. Although I do wish I had some resin, I'm going to go ahead and just use what I have. And what I had today on hand was some clay from Hobby Lobby. So I did give my clay a quick roll in my hands. And then I'm going to go ahead and press it into my mold. This did take quite a bit of clay. But overall, I just feel like it's just worth it. It is so beautiful. So I'm continuing to fill my mold and just pressing it in and wiping back with my thumb any of the excess and just trying to make it as flat as possible from the back. Then I did have this tray that I've had for quite some time. I'm just going to give it a coat of a white paint, and just FYI, I had another plan in mind. I do end up painting this tray black. So then I'm going to add some Titebond, and I'm going to go ahead and add her to this tray that I've had for a while. I had previously painted it white, but I'm going to go ahead and just paint over that because I do want to make it black. Then going in with the FALECITE mold, I'm going to go ahead and add some baking powder, and I'm just going to use this longer piece on the side here, and I'm just going to go ahead and add this on the bottom of the tray. And again here, I'm just going to press in my clay, and using my thumb, I'm just going to remove any excess clay. Then I will remove it from the mold and then add some Titebond to the bottom of my clay here, and then I'm just going to adhere it to the bottom of the tray. And just to prevent any cracking, I'm going to go in almost immediately after placing my molds, and I'm just going to give this 2 coats of paint in the color ink from Waverly Chalk Paint. And since my clay is still wet, I'm just trying to not press so hard with my paintbrush just to keep as much detail as possible. Then going in with this gold paint from Folk Art, I'm just going to go ahead and stipple on the paint mainly on the high points and a little bit around the tray, and I just keep doing that until I am satisfied with the color. Then just to make her headband pop a little bit, I'm just going to go in with some E6000, and I'm going to go ahead and add some chain that I picked up from the jewelry section at Hobby Lobby. And that is basically it for this one. I will say that after a day or two, I did get a little bit of shrinking, but I just plan on going in there and repainting the areas where you can see the white. But other than that, she is perfect. Let me know what you guys think. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and use this ephemeral stamp on these. These are actually dry erase boards on one side. I picked them up at the Goodwill bins, but I really like the brown on the back, so I'm going to go ahead and stamp it with this ephemeral stamp. So I think I picked up about 8 of them. They were new in the pack. I'm just going to make some tags for my booth, kind of on the moody side, being that we're going into fall and Halloween, so I'm kind of trying to keep these on the moody side. Next up, just going in with this gold archival ink, I'm just going to go ahead and hit the edges of my tag. So I did lose some of the recordings, but I just basically using the cameo mold from IOD and the invitation only. I went ahead and gave this a coat of black in the color ink. Then I'm going in with that same Folk Art gold paint and just dry brushing right over that to bring out all that detail. So for this tag, I did get a little bit of black paint on the tag when I was painting it. So I'm just kind of just going with it and giving it a shadow around the little cat here, just to disguise that black mark that I made right above the ear. And again, going in with some Folk Art Gold paint, just dry brushing right over all that detail with my chip brush. So for the back, I don't want it to look like this dry erase board. So I'm basically going to go in with my Elmer spray adhesive, and I'm going to go ahead and add this napkin that I'm not sure where it came from, but I'm pretty sure it was the Goodwill bins. I'm just going to go ahead and decoupage it to the back of the tag. And I basically try and smooth out as much wrinkles as possible. And then I will go in and sand around the edges to take off any of the excess napkin. And as I always do, I'm just going to go ahead and age up the edges of my napkins here with some Distress Oxide. And I will go ahead and give these a clear coat. Then I'm going to just add a pretty distressed ribbon that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. And that is it for this one. And I just want to mention that the Rest in Peace transfer is from Dollar Tree on the one tag. So for this next one, I'm going to go ahead and use these little pumpkin cutouts from Dollar Tree. I'm starting out with some clay and I'm just rolling it right over the pumpkin cutout. Then I'm just going to remove any of the clay around the edges, and then I will add some Titebond to glue on the clay to my wood cutout. So once I get my clay on there, I do go in once again with the roller, and I'm just basically trying to get it as flat as possible and trying not to waste too much clay. I know my first couple I did the clay a little bit too thick, but it really doesn't need to be that thick. So I do go in right after this with the rolling pin once again. So I'm just trying to create a surface so I can get the imprint of the stamp onto my little cutout here. So I can already tell that this stamp here is going to be my go-to. It's just so versatile. There's so much you can do with it. So up here, all I'm basically going to do is stamp it onto my clay to create the imprint. And I just love the results of this. I loved it so much that I did do it again on the next project. Although I'm not sure how I feel yet about the next project, but we shall see. And since these stamps are new, I did go ahead and prep them, and I did do that with the previous one. I just did not show it. So with this stamp, I wanted to use the bird, and I also used the butterfly, and I really loved how this came out, guys. I don't know, I might be doing this more often. I just really love it. So next, I'm just going to go in with some black paint in the same color from Waverly in the color ink. And I'm going to do this to all my tags. And I didn't really give any time for the clay to set up or anything. I went straight in. I'm trying to prevent any cracking. And again, as I've been doing, I'm just going to go ahead and dry brush some gold paint right over all that detail. And I know this seems a little bit repetitive, but this is just the, I guess, the vibe or the theme that I'm going for my booth for the next reset, being that Halloween and fall is right around the corner. And that is basically it for this one. I add a little hanger and a little bow, and we are done. I can honestly say that I love this technique. We'll see what you guys think of the next project. Next up, I'm just going to go ahead and use this very old frame, and I also used some amazing casting resin to create the bow out of this BOWS mold from IOD. So I'm just going to arrange these how I think looks best, and I add some E6000 to the back of them and then let them sit overnight. So next I'm just gonna roll out some clay, and I did lay down some parchment paper because I do need a I needed to cover a bigger surface than the previous project, and it was getting stuck to my board underneath, so I did lay down some parchment paper. So I did cut out a backing with some foam board from a Dollar Tree, and this is where I laid it right on top and just took off any of the clay that was hanging over. And here I'm just making sure that it is gonna fit into my board properly without having to force it in. So next I'm gonna go ahead and use this pretty lady out of the Charlotte stamp, and I'm just going to create an imprint just like I did with the previous one. And I'm just trying to give it enough pressure to get as much of the detail imprinted into the clay. Once I lifted it up, I feel like the eye didn't really come out so much, but then when I redid it, it basically looked the same, so I just kind of went with it. So I'm just going to add some Tite Bond to my foam board so I can adhere my clay to the board. Then I'm just going to go right in with some Snow White chalk paint from Waverly and give this just one coat and let it dry. And once it has fully dried, I'm just going to go in with some Waverly Antique Wax. I will wipe it back almost immediately, very gently, just trying not to mess with any of the detail from the stamp. So goal here is to wipe all the excess off, but I still want it to sit in all those little crevices. So right over that wax, I'm just going to go in with a little bit of a white, just dry brushing it on there. So I'm basically wiping off as much paint as I can off my brush. Then I'm going to just go in with some of that Folk Art Gold paint and go right over that white, and it's just going to create just a little bit more dimension. And for my frame here, I'm just going to go in with some Rub and Buff to paint my molds, and I just kind of dry brush over the frame here and there. I do like the aged look of it, so I don't really do too much to the frame. And that is basically it for today's video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed what I created today. In the comments, let me know which one was your favorite. And if you like what you see, please subscribe and follow for more. And follow me over on Instagram. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.